speaking of which, I got sent this thread by Rob Henderson earlier on, which is really interesting. Could the matching imbalance on Tinder and other dating apps be a factor in the rise of the incel movement and young men reporting low sexual activity? So there's a graph here that says the young men, share of men and women between the ages of 18 and 30 reporting no sex in the past year. And that has gone up from 10% to 30% for men since around about 2010 to 2020 to now. Right, so over the last decade, the number of men reporting no sex in the last year has tripled, and the line on the graph has got where Tinder's introduced, and it is exactly when men, where that inflection for men beginning to go from the 10% to the 20 to 28%. Women also actually stay flat for a little while, but have increased, which is also very interesting. Wealth in Tinder is not distributed equally. Attractive guys have more wealth in the Tinder economy. They get more likes than unattractive guys. That's the bottom 80% of men, bottom 20% of women, top 80% of women, top 20% of men thing, which a lot of people are familiar with. There's a thing called a Gini coefficient, or a Gini coefficient, which works out how much inefficiency there is within a system. So it's used to look at economies within countries, and the lower that the number is, the more equality there is within wealth distribution. So if modern dating apps were a country, it would be one of the most unequal in the world. The Tinder economy has a higher Gini coefficient than 95.1% of the countries in the world. It's just below South Africa. It's above Venezuela.
In disparity of wealth.
It's above Venezuela and just below South Africa. That's where it sits. According to open source data, a man of average attractiveness can only be expected to be liked by slightly less than 1% of females, 0.87% on Tinder. This equates to 1 like for every 115 females, and men in the bottom 10% see just 1 match per week at most. Ultimately, most women only swipe on a handful of men per day, while men are more freewheeling with their swipes. So, yeah, females pass on 95% and like on 5, and men are basically 50-50 left and right. It's just...
We had talked about Tinder before, and one thing that I think is actually really interesting was before Tinder, there were websites like eHarmony. You remember that?
Match.com.
Match.com.
Plenty of fish.
And the way that we looked at it, you know, the guys in my friend group, the people my age, we looked at it as like, oh, what a weird fucking idea. Online dating, super weird. You're a weird, like it was just kind of like, what the hell? And then here's Tinder, this fun little swipey thing. It's kind of about hookups. It's a meme, right? It's like a meta commentary. It's just like, this is hilarious. We're swiping. It's hilarious. We match. Oh, what's up? Like, and then almost immediately after that, online dating becomes something serious. It becomes something like, well, I haven't gotten any dates. Let me go online. There's really not much resisting to whether it's cool or not. You can resist whether you want to do it, or whether it's legit or not, or if the masses are doing it. But if someone says, hey, I'm on Hinge or I'm on Tinder, they're not going to get made fun of because it's just the masses are doing that. Whereas eHarmony and Match.com, like if you had done that at the time where they were very prevalent for, I think, older generations, it was definitely seen as a weird thing.
That's the same as anything, though, right? There's adoption curves happen slowly.
But it wasn't like eHarmony. It wasn't like we all jumped on eHarmony. We all jumped on the hookup app.
Oh, there was something about Tinder that made this.
The location services was, I think, the thing. You are in the same location as that person. Here's a picture of them. Do what you want with it. Rather than this kind of weird, almost like MySpace-y type of AOL vibe to it, which you would get from eHarmony and Match.com.
Yeah.
Maybe on the Tinder thing, you get this handheld, location services, this app on your device that
good user experience
separates it,
less boomery. Well, why do you think it would be that the introduction of Tinder would increase the number of men reporting no sex? Do you think it's just women? Do you think that what this guy's implying in the thread is because of this high inequality that women are sort of wistfully chasing after the 8 out of 10s and above for guys and they're not giving any attention to the dudes at the bottom? Because you would have presumed, maybe, if you hadn't been able to work out what was actually going to go on, everyone's talking to everyone more. That should facilitate more casual sex for everybody overall. But what it seems has happened is the gains have been sort of accrued to the very few super chads at the top. And then there's this big sexless underclass of men that is now 30% of men reporting no sex within the last year.
Yeah, I mean, more matches for the female would mean, why would you take the male that you're less attracted to, right? Like, why would you take the opportunity if you know you can match with more and more and more and more people? You're going to leave out a very large chunk of other people where men apparently do not have that option. So, yeah, I mean, they're just chasing after the potential match that they know is more likely going to happen. Maybe if those two people meet, like, this is also another thing. Women are, and men are now looking at their potential mate through the lens of looks. Whereas before, you might not think someone is attractive until there's some sort of action that makes them attractive. Whether that's someone in your class or, someone you go to the gym with or whatever. That interaction is what makes them attractive. And then you're looking at someone who, if you saw their Tinder profile or if you saw their Hinge profile, you would not have swiped. So maybe that's occurring less, potential mates. Like, you just had on a guest who said that the worst quality to look for a long-term relationship is looks.
Conventional attractiveness. Yeah.
And that is exactly what people are looking at when they get these apps.
Well, I think that this probably explains a big chunk of why relationships are now increasingly short. And this is something that people don't necessarily see. So it's easy to say there is now a global sexual marketplace. Anybody with an Instagram account or a Tinder account can basically be in the entire world's sexual marketplace, right? They can be dating somebody in Guatemala or Bali or Germany or wherever they want. And therefore, that means that people are mate switching more easily because the friction of doing that is lower, and because the number of competitors for whoever your mate is significantly higher now, and that women will lily pad from one guy to one guy, from one Chad to one Chad to the next one. Now, the thing that Seth Stevens-Davidowitz said that was really interesting is that the algorithms can predict what you're going to click on unbelievably well. They will be able to predict with like insane accuracy whether you'll swipe left or right on someone, and the algorithms can do basically nothing to work out whether or not you'll have long-term happiness and whether a relationship will last long-term. So for the people that didn't see the episode, the things that are most often used as cues for whether or not someone will swipe right or left are things like height, conventional attractiveness, wealth level, and job. Right? Those are some of the most common things that are used. These have basically zero correlation with whether or not a relationship is happy long-term. Those things were psychological stability, conscientiousness, a growth mindset, a bunch of other things, none of which can be displayed on a Tinder profile. I can't tell whether you've got a growth mindset or whether you're somebody that's psychologically
mentally stable.
Yep, precisely. Yeah. In fact, you might be able to try and signal precisely that through your looks and then have the complete opposite. You can put window dressing up as much as you want. So my point being that what people are doing now is optimizing for the wrong parameters. People are optimizing for things which are completely arbitrary when it comes to long-term relationship happiness. For girls, things like height. I think it's something like 80% of women on Hinge have their height limit set to 6 foot or above for men. That's less than 10%, I want to say, less than 10 or 15% of men in the United States are above 6 foot. And yet height has zero predictive ability when it comes to looking at long-term relationship happiness. Imagine you saying to me, dude, I only date girls who are a size 4.5 shoe. I'd be like, why? I know that this has no bearing on whether or not you're going to be happy in this relationship, but you just pick this arbitrary thing because it's become captured by the culture that girls that are size 4.5 feet.
Do you know what? I almost have a reasoning for that. This is anecdotal, but I feel as though girls hold more of an animus towards these dating apps. So they say, look, if I'm going to get on Hinge, I'm going to get the best of the best. And if it doesn't work, no problems for me. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if I get one match, if I get 10 matches. I don't care. I'm on this thing to not get fucked over. But if I'm going to get someone, they better be tall. They better be good looking. They better be this, this, and this. Where maybe it's not the same approach for men. Right? I can honestly say that I've heard many, many women just say, like, it's almost like the dating app owes them for being
because they resent the fact that they maybe have
they
to be
resent
on
the
there.
idea that they're there. Yes.
What's happening, people? If you enjoyed that, then press here for the full, unedited episode. And don't forget to subscribe. Peace.